So we're going to go over some basic animation concepts with the scene that we just rendered. And what I need to do is kind of reset the scene and get some type of a narrative going so that an animation makes sense. So first thing we need to do is basically figure out, okay, what are we going to animate? In my case, since I added a car here, I guess it would make sense for the car to kind of drive past the house, and for it to drive past the house with a guy kind of standing there, that wouldn't look very good. So I'm going to actually move the guy inside the house, and I'm going to situate him with the girl in here, like they're having a conversation. Perhaps this guy kind of drives past, and maybe she's talking about how he fishes too much with his friend, and his friend went to pick him up and thought, ooh, I better not pick him up right now. Regardless, let's go ahead and let's go through a few concepts of animation. So in the objects manager up here, we have all of these different shapes and a lot of stuff's going on here. So what I want to do is I want to take the thing that I'm animating, which in this case is going to be this this car here, and I'm going to double click where it says hot hatch, whatever, and I'm just going to type in car so I can kind of remember what it is and where it's going to go. So I'm going to drive the car. I'm going to drag the car to the top of the order here. I also have this guy that's sitting in here, and to select things that you want to work with. In this case, I just clicked on that guy. He's, I think, listed as casual sit. I want to adjust him, but I'm going to put him up underneath the car, and I'll show you why here in just a second. But with the car highlighted, as I move the car, you can see that the guy doesn't go with the car. So I need to make him this casual sit, and I'm just going to call him Guy so I don't get lost. I need to make him a child of the car. So now with him placed inside the car, the hierarchy, and when I click car and push the car, he's actually going along for the ride. And we're going to go in and make some adjustments to him in here in a second. But let's go ahead and scroll down to our two actors, the man and woman here. I'm going to take the guy and I'm going to put him in the house. And I'm going to set him in this room over here, so that when his buddy's going to pick him up, he can see that he's in that room. And let me go ahead and rotate him. And he's talking to his friend here. Let me just use my move tool, click on her. Actually, I'm going to select her up here in the objects manager. Let's say they're facing each other, and again talking about how he fishes way too much. Okay, so now I have those two in a separate room discussing the fishing trip, and I have this guy sitting in a car, and he's going to be animated. So I don't see his feet, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave him as is, and I won't make that adjustment unless I absolutely need to. Okay, so let me just navigate around a little bit more. Now, animation. So we're going to take this guy that's in a car, and we're going to have him kind of go past a house, kind of slow-like, because he's wanting to pick his buddy up, but obviously his buddy's having that conversation. So we're going to start this animation with the car, let's say right here. Now let's talk about the timeline. Right here is this little this green dot. This is called our scrubber, and we're going to start that green dot at frame 0. And we're going to drag it all the way out to 90 frames, and this is set to 30 frames per second, so that's going to give us 3 seconds of animation. So we can start with this car here at frame 0. Let's say that it's just off the screen, and we're going to drop a keyframe in at frame 0. And let me get to a point where I can grab a handle, and we're going to scrub forward to frame 90, and I'm just going to move this car to this location. Let me center it up a little bit so that it's almost out of the picture plane at frame 90, and I'm going to drop another keyframe. So now when I click play, you can see that the car is going to kind of buzz past the house just for about 3 seconds. When I did that, notice there's this little line that showed up here, and that's called a spline. And we can make adjustments to the path of the car by grabbing that spline and adjusting it. But in this case, I just want it moving in a straight line, so that makes sense. Now, depending on the object that you're using for your animation, I'm going to go ahead and troubleshoot a few things with my animation that may not be pertinent to yours. So first thing is, notice the wheels aren't moving. But in my car, you can see this little plus here next to where it says car. When I click that, it shows all the different parts of the car in this hierarchy. So there's windows, interior, so on and so forth. And I can go ahead and make adjustments to those. So I'm going to go down here to wheels, and I'm going to keep opening these up until I get to front wheels and back wheels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that front wheel, and inside this group there's a rim, and I'm not going to rotate the tire with it. I'll just rotate the rim. That way it'll give me kind of an illusion or the look of this thing rotating. Actually, let's go ahead and select the rim and the tire. I'll hold shift on my keyboard, and for the front group, I'm just going to see if I can go ahead and rotate those. So with the rotate tool here, let me go ahead and see if they'll rotate together, and they do. Okay, so I'm going to rotate the front wheels and then the back wheels independently. So at frame 0, this is where my animation is. And clear out here at frame 90, I've got the front wheels that I'm going to have rotating past here. So with auto keying selected, I'm going to go up here to rotate, and let me go ahead and rotate those front wheels. I rotated the axle. Let me go back there. There we go. And I'm going to rotate these front wheels maybe like 4 or 5 turns. So that goes up to, what is that? 1052 degrees. Now let me go in and grab the back wheels independently, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I got the rim, hold shift, grab the tire. So again, the rim, hold shift, grab the tire. Let me see if I can get these things rotated as well. And it was, what, 1,000 and some degrees. Maybe they won't rotate exactly the same, but we'll get it kind of close. So that's 1,000 and whatever percent. And with auto key selected, that rotated those as well, so it dropped 2 keys down. Now I'm going to scrub to the end of this, and I'm going to drag those keys here to 90. And let's go ahead and hit play and see what we got out of this. Now when I hit play, not only is the car moving forward, let's see how this back wheel looks. We've got these wheels moving. And for 3 seconds, they should move along that path where the spline was and keep rotating until the end of my animation. And that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that for the animation. The other thing that I do want to adjust is this guy. I want to make him look a little bit more realistic. Okay, so I'm going to hit pause here. And let's go ahead and collapse this hierarchy. And I'm going to take my guy and pull him out of the car for a second. And I'm going to make an adjustment to him, and then I'll put him back into the car. So let me just hit the minus on the car. So in order to make things, I guess, disappear in your viewport so that you can work with them a little bit easier, there are these little spotlights here. And the top one is for the viewport, and the bottom one's for render. In this case, I'm just going to turn my car off, and I'm going to cut this guy's legs off. Okay, so with the guy selected, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to grab a cube. And this may not pertain to your animation, but just let's talk about bowling. This is a good way to make some adjustments to the shapes of what you're working with. So I've got this cube, and let me just grab the handle for the cube. And I need to go up into split screen really quick just so I can move that cube forward. So I have the cube selected. I'm going to move it forward. And I'm going to put this cube underneath this guy's legs. Let me just shrink it back down because it doesn't need to be that large, and I don't want to go cutting off my scene. Okay, so I've got this cube and the guy's legs are in it right now. I'm going to go back to the larger view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bool for that. So I'm going to go up here to where it says array, and I'm going to select this bool, and I'm going to take the cube and the guy, and I'm going to make those a child of the bool. And this is set up right now for A subtract B. The cube is A and the guy is B, so I'm going to flip-flop those because I want to keep the guy. And I'm going to have him selected, hold shift on my keyboard, select the cube, put those underneath the bool, and it cuts the guy's legs off. It basically just eliminates the geometry. So I'm going to go back, click the bool, hold shift on my keyboard, click the cube, and all three are selected. I'm going to right click and go down to connect objects and delete. And now bool is going to become guy. So I'll double click it and type guy. And I'm going to turn my car back on. And there's the guy in the car. But with the car selected, you'll see that when I move this car, the guy's not going with it. So I need to take the guy and I need to make him a child of the car again. So I'm going to put him up underneath the car. And now when the car moves, the guy will move as well. One last thing, with the guy selected, let me move him over into the driver's seat. I think he was sitting in there as a passenger, and I noticed it when I animated. It looked like he was kind of in the passenger seat. Now with the guy's legs cut off and he's sitting in the driver's seat, we have the wheels turning, and he's going to go past his buddy's house while his buddy's arguing with his friend about fishing too much. And for a quick first animation, this works out pretty well. Last thing we need to do is render this as an animation. We'll take a look at it. So we're going to go up into our render settings. Render settings are right here. And we're going to go to output and select all frames instead of current frames. This is an animation. We want all frames rendered. We'll go to save, and instead of TIFF, we'll select MOV, movie file. And with all the goodies, ambient occlusion and global illumination still checked, we're going to render this out. Now this render is going to take a while, so I'm going to let it go, and we'll take a look at it when it's finished to save it out. So the render's finished, and all we have to do is save it out. We'll get a quick preview here, and watch the car drive by. And we'll save it to the desktop and add some sound effects. So we go to File, Save As, switch from still image to animation, leave it an MOV, click OK, and give it a title. Save it to the desktop, and we're all set. Scott, let's go!